Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. To help keep this podcast free, we're partnering with Stoke Seeds. More than just a listing of vegetable and flower seeds, the Stoke Seeds website is a complete resource center with valuable information on seed starting, planting, and harvesting, plus all the gardening accessories you need to make your garden the envy of the neighborhood. Pre-order your free 2018 gardening guide today from stokeseeds.com, cultivating successful growers for generations. We'll have more to come from Stoke Seeds in the next few weeks. Now, on to today's question. You had wanted to talk a little bit about planning your garden for spring, and now's a good time to do it, planting color and the like. And as we mentioned, you can go to stokeseeds.com and check out, get their gardening guide, which is not only a seed catalog, but also has a lot of cool stuff in it. But if you're sitting down with paper and pencil, now's the time to give yourself a chance to do some planning.
Well, this is true, Mark, and that, well, it's for several reasons. One is color patterns and so on. The other is plants that have more intrigue in terms of flower shape, flower head, whether they're multi-stem, single-stemmed, etc. There are all kinds of things. Now, I find that once a person gets struck by the gardening habits, they then start to filter down to a color scheme. I've never gotten that sensitive. I guess I learned a long time ago from a professor that there is enough green around most flowers that they don't fight each other as the color wheel will. Now that, where it may well be true, and as far as I'm concerned, it is true. But I know a particular number of gardeners. One is a really good author with a book that explains these things. She is very concerned about the color wheel and etc. I just say that planning takes time. You need to read a number of catalogs, and if you're concerned about catalogs, order one. And then you'll get 5. I think they exchange these names and so on. But it's fun to sit by the fire, or if no fireplace, to just sit and look out on an occasional sunny day and picture what was last year. And I hope you made some records on successes and failures, and then what you can do the next year. When you buy seeds, you can buy seeds for some more or less hardy plants. Now, I don't mean perennials, but woody, I guess I should say. But most of the time you're buying of perennial and annual nature. You then have the option of waiting to sow the seed out in the garden come spring, or you can set up I call it a light table. I have an old kitchen table in my basement. I don't do it anymore, but I used to have a 4-foot fluorescent 2-bulb unit hanging above the table, and it was nails into the floor joists and then hanging down to where when I turned the fluorescence on, the light source was only about 4 inches above the seed bed, and then I could just use the links in the chain as the plants grew. I could keep moving the light up, because you have to have, even though an incandescent or a fluorescent for us is quite bright, it is way low in foot candles of power to get things going and keep them short and stout. That's one of the key things. I know people who have started seeds, had good luck. All of a sudden, the seedling is 4 inches tall and it flops over. Not a good practice. So high light is the key on that. You can go from my really rough way of starting things to a number of good lighting stores now that you can buy into all kinds of lighting apparatus, from little countertop things for the kitchen for herbs on through growing a fantastic array of tropical plants. But it takes time to decide. Some people are extremely fussy about it, others not. My favorite story on color is that a person had pink in the living room. They looked out on the pink flowers of a weeping cherry. They had hired an arborist to come in and do X work. The lady forgot her grocery list. She dashed back in the house to grab her grocery list, looked out the window, and there's a guy starting a power saw right beside her weeping cherry. She said, I went screaming almost out through the glass. And she said, if he had cut that tree, somebody would have died right then and there.
Oh, man.
So people could get pretty fussy about color inside, color outside, all of which turn out humorous in this case, but it wouldn't have been good if she hadn't gone back for her grocery list. Anyhow, back to the planting. Some people like the experience of changing the garden each year, changing color combinations, height combinations, textures. It just goes on and on and on what you can do. Last week's newspaper here in Columbus shows a new type of marigold that is, it's just, I'm sorry. I'm looking at marigolds, but I'm thinking zinnias here. It is a plant that is multicolored and so subtle that I would guess if you took a time to pick it apart, you would see 5 different colors in that one flower head. Absolutely beautiful, even in newsprint. So I don't know what it would look like in a garden. But when we talk about this time of year, the study starts with, as best you can find, seed tables. By that, tables, lists, plants that have been judged over the course of ever since they were developed by breeders. They've probably been through 5 years or more of tests on soil, temperature, moisture, disease resistance, and so on. And by the time something like that zinnia comes out as the top-notch number 1 pick for that plant or that kind per year, you can pretty well be assured it'll grow in your garden. So it's good to start with that. It's also fun to just reach out and experiment. And one of the things I always pass along is, you're going to lose some seedlings. Yes, you're going to use some plants. You're going to have bunnies and deer, etc. But don't be discouraged. That's nature. Just keep up the fight.
Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you have a question for Fred, go ahead and email us, fred@planttalkradio.com. And for the best selection of vegetable, flower, and herb seeds available, go to www.stokeseeds.com. Pre-order your free 2018 gardening guide today from stokeseeds.com. Cultivating successful growers for generations.